Good evening, everyone. Welcome to USD 305 board meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda?
Madam President, there is an addendum to the personnel report that is at your place, and we do not need an executive session for personnel this evening.
Okay, but we do need one for
Negotiations.
negotiations. All right, thank you.
Madam
Do I have a
President,
motion?
I
Carol?
move approval of the agenda as amended.
Emma Doherty, second.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carried 7-0. First thing on our agenda is recognitions and presentations, and we have all, I think, been enjoying visiting with each other and seeing these bright young people in the LIFT program here this evening. Salina Education Foundation provides the LIFT, and we'll have a grant presentation also with Pam McIntyre.
The trustees and I always enjoy this afternoon because we're able to show you the really remarkable things that the Salina Education Foundation is doing for USD 305. And this year, we were able to provide 6 LIFT grants to students. So that is the largest number that we have been able to do. So we're particularly proud that we were able to identify 6 really strong, wonderful potential teachers. And it is my honor to, first of all, I want to talk to you a little bit about the LIFT committee. The LIFT committee consists of 3 trustees, 2 USD 305 people, Aaron Wright and Kelly Heisman, and 2 community members. Because the LIFT program was so supported by the community, we really want the community's voice in on selecting our next group of teachers. And Natalie Fisher is here, I think I saw her, and Jason Graves is our other community person. So we truly appreciate their help. And I want to recognize Nedra Elba as well. She does our informal kind of interview. Did you girls know that you were being interviewed when I took you to Mrs. Elba and you knew? All right, smart. Yeah. See, they knew. Well, we said it was just a casual conversation, but actually we were looking at you. This year we had 17 applications, and we were able to select 6. I'm going to introduce each one now, and instead of telling you all of the activities that they have that they participate in, which are many, I want to give you, and you girls also, a taste of what the references have said about them, okay? So first up, we're going alphabetical, is Audrey Burgoon. Audrey will graduate from Salina Central this spring and attend Kansas State University, majoring in secondary education, speech, and theater. One of her references said this about Audrey: she has identified the value of learning within the context of community. Such an understanding requires empathy, and Audrey has empathy in spades. She personifies what it means to be a student, a leader, and a community member. She is the benchmark by which the superlatives excellence and exceptional are measured. Audrey?
Again, hello, my name is Audrey Burgoon, and I'm a senior at Salina Central High School. I will be attending Kansas State University in the fall to major in secondary theater education. Ever since I was little, I loved watching my parents in the classroom and playing school with my brothers. School is and always has been my safe place. But as I got older, I realized that not every student feels the same level of comfort as I do. This in turn affects school attendance, effort and productivity, and the ability to understand basic content. I want to be a teacher to help students advocate for themselves, learn to love learning, and find themselves through the performing arts. I believe education is about giving students the skills to succeed in life, no matter where they go and who they want to be. Students might come for the performing, but they will stay for the positivity and support they receive. It is said that education can be considered the great equalizer. In many cases, schools are putting students in classes and forcing them to conform to learning styles that are not beneficial or conducive to the way they best learn. The goal of education should be to set students up for success in any way we can. I am so excited to teach in a district where that is the core value. Performing is a unique subject. It continually is able to offer growth in a variety of different learning styles. Whether that means reading from a script, listening to different dialects, building sets, or watching a performance. I want to be able to teach traditional skills like math, reading comprehension, history, and public speaking in a non-traditional setting that some students need to flourish. This is not to mention the team building, self-esteem, confidence, and creative benefits that come with the process. When you focus on serving students as individuals, they can maximize their potential as a whole and overcome their obstacles. Being a future theater educator receiving the LIFT grant is an amazing reminder of how our schools and community are dedicated to STEAM-based learning, arts education, and bettering the future of all the students who walk through our halls. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Grace Holgerson will graduate from Salina Central this spring and attend Fort Hays State University, majoring in English education. Here are a few things one of her references said about Grace. It is always enjoyable to work with students who are positive, considerate of others, and insightful. Grace is one of those students. She exhibits high personal standards and integrity. She is caring, hardworking, and smart. Her leadership goes above and beyond that of a high school senior, and I believe she will be a valuable asset to this community. Grace?
Hello, I'm Grace. I'm also a senior at Salina Central, like Audrey said, and I'll be going to Fort Hays. I'll do secondary education with English. First of all, I just want to say thank you to everybody for this amazing opportunity. And I'm really excited to be back in Salina in the future and teaching a whole new generation of students. Salina has been a really amazing place to grow up in, and I'm really proud to live in such a supportive and amazing community, so I'm really looking forward to come back and teaching here. I've always really admired my teachers growing up, and they've been a big influence in my life, helping me find my love for reading, writing, and assisting others, inspiring me to be a teacher myself in the future. I want to become someone who students look up to and be a part of their academic journey. Specifically, I would love to teach high school English because of the deep and important lessons found in the course material, diving into the depths of the human condition and providing students with stories that relate to their own personal thoughts, hopes, and dreams. So thank you all again for being a part of my own dream and providing me with this wonderful opportunity.
One of our new LIFT recipients could not be here with us today. She is a Kansas State University student with a bad migraine, and she made the difficult but very wise decision not to get on the interstate and try to make it to this meeting. But I do want to read a little bit about Melissa Mahoney. Melissa Mahoney is a Salina South graduate and student at Kansas State University majoring in secondary education biology. One of her references said this about Melissa. Melissa has been extremely proactive since she started at the College of Education. Every time I have the chance to work with Melissa or to observe her working with others, I am impressed with her ability to act as a role model. Melissa has a great love for learning and is fantastic at conveying that love to anyone who interacts with her. And by the way, her mother is Candace Mahoney, who is a teacher in USD 305. So I was able to speak with her briefly before this and give her her little wrist massage. So I hope she's feeling better shortly. Alora Nesting will graduate from Salina Central this spring and attend Emporia State University, majoring in elementary education. Her reference said this about her. Her attention to detail will take her very far as a teacher. It is obvious that Alora sets high expectations for herself and meets those expectations. She is extremely self-motivated and takes initiative. I have seen her work with kids in a teaching role, and she is naturally patient and kind. She is a fantastic role model for any student. Alora?
Hi, my name is Alora Nesting, and I will be attending Wichita State. I've since changed my school's location, so Wichita State University, and majoring in elementary education, as well as double majoring in violin performance, because I believe keeping music as a part of my life is it's been a big piece of my life, so I figured I should keep it in there. So becoming a teacher has always been my dream since I was in middle school. And even growing up in a family of teachers, it's really opened my eyes and really shared with my future and how I want to spend it. And so I've always had a passion for learning, and which grew into my passion for wanting to teach. I love seeing students understand something for the first time, and it gives me the biggest satisfaction knowing that I was the reason that they'll carry that with them for the rest of their life. So it's really given me an amazing feeling of happiness that I really couldn't possibly replace by anything else. I love teaching new concepts and allowing students to open their minds and expand them and know that they'll have something that they can carry with them. So the LIFT scholarship has really allowed me in a way I never thought possible to continue my education and be able to help fulfill this dream of mine, knowing that I won't be able to be caught stranded and unemployed. It's very satisfactory to me that I will, and I'm deeply and humbly appreciated. Thank you so much.
The Salina Education Foundation does not require you to go to a specific school, so just as long as you get your initial teacher certification. Yeah, okay. Hannah Rivers. Hannah is a Salina Central graduate who is working as a paraprofessional in a functional learning classroom. She will be taking online courses at Fort Hays State University to complete her teacher certification in secondary special education. Her reference reports. Hannah has a talent of making great relationships with the students that carries over to her being able to teach them in a very effective manner. She is flexible in her position and willing to take on any task that is asked of her. Hannah is a self-starter and has the ability to be both firm and caring with students. Hannah is a true example of an excellent aspiring teacher. Hannah.
Hello, I'm Hannah, and I'm a 2007 graduate of Salina Central. Go Mustangs. I now work at South High in the functional special education department. I've been a para for a total of 5 years. I took a break and kind of went the non-traditional route after getting a degree from Kansas Wesleyan and Fort Hays State University. Worked for a while as a para, then went into restaurant management. So I kind of went the route of seeing what else was out there, and I can tell you that my passion is for the kids, and that's why I went back. Definitely learned that money is not important at all, and if you're not doing something that you're truly passionate about, then you should definitely consider that, because it makes all the difference in the world. My favorite part about being in the classroom is the connection that I can make with kids. And one of my favorite quotes that I just discovered was, cooperation follows connection, and I've learned that with these kids that even some other people have had trouble getting to. I found a way to earn their respect, and I'm able to make a connection with them and teach them the skills for them to be as independent as possible. So I'm kind of starting a new path in my own life, and I'm very thankful for this opportunity and what it will do for my daughter and I. So thank you very much.
We were excited that Hannah applied to the program because we want non-traditional students and we welcome them. So it's not just high school graduates that we are looking to support. Of course we do, but non-traditional students are very important also, and the LIFT program would very definitely help a non-traditional student. So welcome, Hannah. And last but not least, Elaine, we're doing alphabetical, remember Elaine? Salina South graduate attending Wichita State University, majoring in elementary education. Her reference says this: "One thing that has always impressed me about Elaine is her ability to see the good in each child, even when they are struggling with tantrums, tired, or hungry. Elaine has a fun-loving personality, and people are drawn to her because of this. She enjoys leading and working with children and is usually found surrounded by them. Elaine shows respect for others and holds herself to high standards." Elaine.
Hello, my name's Elaine. I have grown up going to school in the USD 305 district, and I'm now at Wichita State University. I'm a sophomore, but next year I will be entering the teaching program. I'm currently getting some of the classes done right now, but next year we'll all be teaching, so I'm excited to be done with my gen eds and finally be studying classes that will work towards my career as a future teacher. So I am actually working at Jackson Elementary right now in Wichita, which has been a really great experience for me, being able to be with kindergarten through fifth graders, kind of seeing what works well in younger classrooms and what works well in older classrooms, and being able to experience different teaching styles and things that I would want to incorporate in my future classroom. So I'm kind of torn between kindergarten and fifth right now, which is kind of a broad spectrum. So yeah, I love third and I love the middle, but kindergarten is just really special, and being able to be with them for their little victories and like their little different kinds of, well, for example, last week I helped a kid understand how to draw a 5, and that was like the highlight of my week. So it was super fun. And then in fifth grade, I usually just help them with homework that they struggled with or things that they just aren't understanding. So I kind of come in there and I help them kind of give them a different aspect on how they should go about it, or how they should go about the strategy differently. So that has been really fun as well. So even though I'm not for sure what grade I want to be with in the future, I do know that teaching is my passion because of those little victories and being able to be there for that. And in middle school and high school, I have had several teachers that have went above and beyond for me and my learning, and been more of a friend to me than just a teacher, and having that relationship with them. So that is something that I want to be able to give to my students. I want to be able to go above and beyond for them and be there for them and be their friend and let them know that I'm there for them. So thank you for this opportunity of being able to come back to Salina and start my career.
You all are entering a very exclusive club, and it always does my heart. Really proud to see past LIFT recipients come to events like this. So I would like for the past LIFT recipients to stand, please.
Oh, great.
Can you introduce them and tell us where each one of those?
Yeah, let's do that. Okay, Jessica Steele, we'll start with you. Would you stand, please, and just tell us your name and which school you're teaching at. Thank you all. There are currently 11 teachers teaching in the district, and we have 13 in the pipeline. Wow. So, yeah. Okay, on to grants. I want to introduce, will my trustees stand, please, because you are the ones who work so hard to make all of these grants possible. There's our chairman right back there, Jeff Norris. George Troutfeather, Better, Taylor, Dirk Hutchinson is a new trustee, Jeannie Warner, and my right-hand person is my secretary, Byron Norris. So, thank you all. Okay, outside the box grants are rewarded for creativity aimed at expanding students' understanding of their community and the world. We like to think about getting kids outside their classroom or having learning more meaningful. Carolyn Goodwin, if you all would just come up, we do have certificates for you. Carolyn Goodwin, Meadowlark Ridge. Students in the EBD, Emotional and Behavior Disorder and Therapeutic Learning Program, will travel to community sites like Lakewood Discovery Center and Sunnyside Pumpkin Patch, where they will put into practice social and life skills they've been taught in the classrooms. Skills such as following directions, obeying rules, working as a team, and learning personal and group responsibilities will be reinforced. Congratulations. Gina Turner, Meadowlark Ridge. Students who read a required number of books will travel to Emporia to meet the authors who win the William Allen White Children's Book Award. While in Emporia, students will also visit the White home, which is called Red Rocks, drive past the Emporia Gazette, which White owned, and visit Peter Pan Park, the land which White donated to the city of Emporia. Students from other schools who read the required number of books will be included in this wonderful project. How many years has it been, Gina? 3? Uh-huh. How many years have you maybe 4, okay. It's a wonderful opportunity for these kids. Yeah, so thank you for doing that. Erica Allen, South Middle. I know some people had. Are you Janet, come right on up. Poetry will come alive for 7th grade students when Cash Hollister works with individual classes to discuss literary techniques like alliteration and metaphors in order to write original poems. The students will write their own lyric poem using the techniques that Cash teaches and present it to their classes as a rap or poetry slam. The poets will also share their original creations with their school and the school community during parent-teacher conferences in February. And I will tell you personally, I know Cash because we've worked with him on 305 Live, and he's great. The kids love him, and the kids get really enthusiastic about poetry. Poetry. Amy Frost, South Middle. Career and life planning students will explore a wide variety of options for college, career, and other post-secondary opportunities by attending a career expo in Hutchinson. You went last year. Yep, it was very successful. We're happy to help you again. When the 8th graders return, they will use salary information gathered from their choices and create multiple scenarios of budgets based upon their choices. They will develop a good understanding of how a career choice impacts their future. So. Taylor Urban, LIFT recipient and also a trustee of the Ed Foundation, was awarded a grant for the South Middle Garden Club. They will plant and care for a vegetable garden. Students will learn about agricultural practices and the impact on the environment, the importance of pollinators and sustainability. Real-life application to biology lessons they are learning in classrooms will be emphasized. Students will plant seeds, learn how to identify and repel common weeds and pests organically, I assume, Taylor? Okay. Learn the benefits of composting and companion planting and how to harvest, and parents will be encouraged to participate. Thank you. And then our Flagship Grant program, begun in 1993 in a very small way, it's grown. We have awarded over $800,000, it'd be about $850,000 total in classroom grants now. The 21st Century Advantage Grants, which support creative and innovative classroom projects. Molly Cherry, Cottonwood. Do we have a, oh, okay. The Cottonwood Culture Club will encourage second language students to learn about their heritage by participating in even more activities through Salina's Arts Infusion program. By sharing cultural awareness to Cottonwood and the community, students will embrace their heritage while learning to speak English. Bilingual library books will be added to foster and maintain students' native language, as well as improve their understanding of English. Thank you for doing that. Kylie Flaherty Husner. Special education students will work with interactive blocks that can be used to teach all areas of mathematics, from basic number skills to algebra. Hands-on investigation will help to make difficult math concepts come to life as students compare heights of numbers. Each block is the numeric height and number of that number. They can swap out a number and replace it with two numbers, which would be addition, and even do multiplication by turning the 1-inch blocks on their side to create different combinations of numbers. I think I would have done better in math had I had that. I'm kind of a visual learner. Elizabeth Kenyon, Lakewood. Lakewood's library will create a makerspace where students have the opportunity to think creatively and problem solve. Materials provided would add to current activities such as origami and would target science, technology, math, and artistic endeavors. Students will build their own robots and collaborate to make Lego designs. Makerspace can be collaborative as well as an individual creative process. Thank you. And it would not be grant season if Lisa Hall did not get a grant. She's so thoughtful. I was talking to her about this. I don't mean to embarrass you, but she is so thoughtful about what her students need that we appreciate your doing that. And we think maybe 22 years. It might be that long. We hope so. At-risk students, Meadowlark Ridge. At-risk students will use text evidence to support their thinking. Hands-on materials focus on a variety of reading comprehension skills, such as making inferences, comparing and contrasting, identifying the main idea and the point of view, and finding key details. All of the activities are between 15 to 30 minutes and use both fiction and nonfiction books. See you next year, Lisa. Amber Bohm, Meadowlark Ridge. Special education students will continue the kindness project that was started in 2016. The students in the therapeutic learning classroom will experience firsthand the power of being kind. Students work on building character and practicing social skills while planning and carrying out the kindness projects. These projects include making and giving crafts, volunteering, and donating. Some of the community entities that the children will help include the food bank, the fire department, Salina Animal Shelter, and the Morrison House. Carolyn Goodwin, Meadowlark Ridge. Now, Carolyn got a Outside the Box grant, and she's also getting a 21st Century Advantage grant, which we think is great. Special education students will learn how to de-escalate and return to a task by using sensory items that are specifically designed to help individuals develop and engage their senses. These can include lights, colors, sounds, and soft play objects. Sensory needs can occur several times during the day, and by having various materials available, students can learn what works best to calm themselves and also to engage more, right? Yeah, thank you, Carolyn. I'm not sure if Corey Ritter, was she able to, oh good, okay. Corey Ritter is also a LIFT recipient, and she now is at Meadowlark Ridge. Students will appreciate high-interest books that can be read individually. It is a huge disappointment for students to try to read books that are below their maturity level. So books will be ordered that are high interest and low level reading. The goal is to engage reluctant readers and get them interested in reading again. If students are able to read independently with age-appropriate reading material, they will want to read more, which in turn will increase their reading ability and reading assessments. Thanks, Corey. Corey is now a mother of 2 little boys. So, and I think Henry may still be here. Kay Berriger, Oakdale. K through 2 second grade students will be introduced to the coding process using Code and Go mouse. The device would integrate more technology into kindergarten through second library lessons and allow students to see a connection between math, science, and reading. Students work in pairs to program the mouse in sequential steps and then test those steps with various activities. The goal is to build reasoning and problem-solving skills while encouraging communication and teamwork. Thanks, Kay. Janet Sauber. Both Kay and Janet were featured at our fall breakfast for their makerspaces. South Middle's makerspace will add cubelets and kiva planks to continue to attract students to the space where they can build, create, take risks, and learn while having fun. The cubelets are small cubes that have different functions like power source, motion sensor, or mobility that students can use to build simple robots. Kiva planks, am I saying that right? Kiva? Kiva planks are hardwood planks of wood that fit in the palm of your hand. The planks encourage self-directed building and can be collaborative or an individual activity. Thanks, Janet. Elizabeth Burke, South High. There's going to be a lot going on at South High's library. South High's library will be a buzzing place with their new book club, which is called Overbooked. That's clever. Maker events challenges, art projects, STEM challenges, and community service projects. Materials will be provided that encourage creativity and problem solving through social learning. Books that have received praise from the American Library Association will be selected by the club. The goal is to increase student participation in library events as well as reading. Thank you for doing that. Gary Seibel, South High. Career and technical education students will use cutting-edge technology by using a 3D printer to make prototypes. The 3D printer allows students to assemble and test ideas or designs in a short period of time. Evaluating functionality and design is a vital part of engineering, and having a working prototype in less than an hour simulates real work product production. The printer will encourage students to brainstorm, develop product concept, 3D design the product, 3D print the product, and evaluate and put the product into production. Sounds like fun. Thank you. And lastly, Shelley Park Stewart. All 4 classrooms, kindergarten students, will enjoy new STEAM, science, engineering, art, and mathematics material that will engage students in sensory and specifically in fine motor skills. In addition to the 4 classrooms receiving Lego tables and light tables, the materials will be rotated to the common room to constantly change student activities. Literacy units may encourage, for example, students to build the 3 Little Pigs house or the Ginger Man's bridge. Math concepts can be reinforced by using the light tables and Lego tables where students can create their own math stories. Thanks, Shelley. A couple more things that I want you to know. We want to thank Chris Upson for funding battery-operated stand lights for the orchestra pits. Now people are not going to be tripping over wires, as they try to get into the orchestra pit. So we really appreciate his help. And then we did surprise each and every library, all 12 libraries this year, with a $400 grant each for student-selected books. So we want to get the students as involved in the selection of those books as we possibly can, and each school will receive $400. Proud of that. Our other grant program is Sudden Opportunity Program. We just ran out of funds, but we were able to fund 52 different separate grants. Very, very popular grant program. Typically capped at $200. It's a quick turnaround. And so when a teacher sees, oh, I need this, I could do something really spectacular with this, teachers are remarkable for what they can do with $200. And so we have been able to fund 52 of them this year. And the trustees voted to add an additional $1,000 to that pot for next year because it is so popular and so well used. So thank you for this opportunity. It's always wonderful to let you know what we're doing. We're proud of our work and appreciate being able to share it with you.
Thank you, Pam. And before anyone sneaks out, I would like the lift recipients to come forward so we could congratulate them. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Welcome aboard.
Come back soon.
Welcome.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Come back soon. I look forward to it.
Welcome.
Very well done.
You bet.
It's nice to know we have all those teachers coming.
Oh, I know it. Yes, yes. And all different, you know, they're not all math or whatever, you know, they're all different topics.
English teachers are hard to find.
Yeah, they are, so that was good. That was good.
We do have a little transition here where everyone's, looks like they're leaving. Don't forget to grab one of those good cookies back there or punch. Move on to approval of consent agenda items, which include the minutes of the March 26, 2019 regular meeting, personnel report, financial reports, which include March bills list and March bond bills list, budget summary, and approve encumbrance listing, which is to coverage one in the amount of $27,959 for the renewal of network licensing and maintenance support. Do I have a motion?
Madam President,
Ann?
I move we accept the consent agenda as written.
Jim?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion or questions? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carried 7-0. Next on our list is public forum. At this time, if there's anyone in the audience that would like to come forward, you may do so at this time. And I do have a request from Karen Boner. Is that correct? Just come on forward here, right over here. And when you get there, I'm going to ask you for your address, and then I need to read a little document first.
Karen Bonar. Am I speaking?
Yeah, that's great.
Bonar is my last name spelling. 113 North Douglas Drive.
Okay, thank you. I do need to read this for your information. Public forum is a non-action public forum. That means we do not discuss and we do not take a vote. I know that you've already read the guidelines for the public forum, but I would like to read them so that the public may know. Public forum is a non-action item in the agenda. The board appreciates patrons taking time to share with us about their thoughts and their concerns. This is not an appropriate time or place for patrons to make comments of a personal nature about any district employee or student. Persons making comments which violate the privacy rights of district employees and students will be asked to stop speaking or cease their remarks. If a patient or a parent has concern with one or more employees, the board will refer that person to the appropriate supervisor or to the superintendent for further review. And it's yours, Karen.
Great. Well, my name is Karen, and my husband, Eric, and I have a 6-year-old son who's in the autism program at Huesner, and we love the program. Is that general enough? I don't know if I can speak to a specific program in a school. Recently we moved and we began using the busing services, which have been so helpful in allowing our son to remain in a classroom that's been very, very formative for him. My struggle is this. Our buses are a hot mess. They come when sometimes we don't get picked up. Sometimes they drive by our house at 8:27 in the morning, going the wrong way. Sometimes they come at 8:17, 8:06, 8:11, 8:08, 8:03, 8:07, and that's just like the last 8 or 10 days. When you have a child who has autism, routine is so vital to their life. I don't know if any of you have experience with children who are on the spectrum, but getting yourself ready for school in the morning is kind of an exhausting task. And so when we're kind of told to be ready about 10 till 8, and we can read books for, and I say we, and I do mean my husband, can only read books for so long, about 10 or so minutes before our interest gets distracted. And that's okay when it comes at 8:03, 8:06, that's okay. We can totally deal with that. But mornings when it's 8:15, 8:17, 8:20 or longer, my son's been sitting there for 30 minutes. My autistic son has been sitting there for 30 minutes. And bless my husband, it's exhausting. So I was venting to my mother saying, gosh, there should be some sort of way that we could track our bus and see when it's coming, for heaven's sake. There's got to be an app for that. And she said, oh, your sister did have an app for that in Andover on the Durham school bus. And I said, really? So I talked to my sister, and she said, yeah, there is one. It was really handy. Her children are neurotypical, so they didn't really have the sitting and waiting issue. But as far as a busy mom having that convenience, it was amazing, she said. So I did a little looking into it, and it looks like we do have that possibility. And even on their website, it says, no additional cost to schools, parents, patrons, et cetera. And I'm like, why aren't we doing this? So my husband called the bus facility, and they said, oh, yeah, the district decided not to do that this year. And everyone who I've spoken with in Huesner, we've kind of been just back and forth, just kind of having a dialogue. And I have said to the front office staff, wouldn't it be amazing if? And they're like, yeah, that'd be really handy. And then several days later, we were at our IEP meeting, and I said, hey, did you guys know the school district did this last year? And nobody in the front office knew about it. His classroom teachers didn't know about it. So I'm just kind of curious if you can, and I don't need an answer today. I'm on the library board. I understand that we don't always have answers right at our fingertips, but if we have this tool available to us, why are we not using it? Is this something we could use? And I'm sure that parents other than people who have children with special needs would benefit from this program. So I just wanted to ask that of the board, see if we could consider it, and or if there's a very vital reason we have chosen not to use it, just let us know, because it's been a constant struggle in our house.
I'm going to refer you to connect with Dr. Hardy at some point soon.
Lovely.
That would be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
We always do encourage the value input from the community and USD 305 patrons, and we appreciate you sharing your thoughts with us. Thank you very much. Moving on to action agenda with ACT Aspire assessments. Lynn Exline.
At the March 26th board meeting, we discussed the ACT Aspire assessments, and I presented to you information about a recommendation from our staff to move from using the summative assessments at grades 3, 6, 9, and 10 to using all interim assessments because of the usability of the data. And so tonight I would like for you to approve that, and I'm certainly willing to answer any additional questions that you might have had after you've had a chance to think about that a bit.
Any comments, questions? Motion. Ann?
Madam President, I move that we approve the purchase of the ACT Aspire interim for grades 3 through 9 in the amount of $34,830 as presented.
Second?
Emma Doherty, second.
More time for comment, questions?
I want to say something, Madam President. This makes me think of law school, just to say sort of an odd connection, but I was an elementary education major in college, and then I later went to law school, and in law school we had one test at the end of each class, and you didn't learn a thing from your test. You only got graded. And if we had had tests throughout the year, I myself would have learned much better. And I think this is a great idea for the teachers to have information feedback as the year goes along, and not just something at the end of the year that sums everything up that they should have known all the way through the year.
Anyone else? Okay, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carried 7-0. Thank you. Move on to the next, which is Chromebook.
Each year, we bring to you updates to the handbooks that we have in our buildings. And this year, we have no changes to the 2019-20 Chromebook handbook. That it will remain the same other than dates. And so we just need your approval to continue using the same handbook that we used this year.
Could I have a motion? Gary?
I move we approve the 2019-2020 Chromebook handbook as presented.
Second? Jim? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Next is our discussion agenda, and first is our website and online communications with Jennifer Bradford Vernon.
Good evening, thank you. It's been nearly 10 years since the last thorough evaluation of our district website. And since then, in that time frame, the market has expanded and user expectations have changed. And I'm pleased to introduce David Chavarria, our web administrator, to share the results of at least a year of thorough research. And on those researches, on those components of his research, he will bring forward a recommendation for next steps for our district website. Thank you.
Madam President, you should be able to pull this up on your computer screen.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks for taking the time to look at this presentation. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at where we are currently, and then take a look at the evaluation process, and then look at the recommended solution and compare the two solutions that we have, and then see how that impacts the budget. So currently, our website is not responsive, and so responsive means that you can view the website on many different devices. If you look and you can see on the desktop, it looks fine, but then as you get to the smaller devices, the website shrinks and it's harder to navigate. And then when you get to the mobile device, it looks completely different. So 10 years ago when this was created, this was the norm. But now it's completely different. People expect to see the website, the same website on whatever device they look at. In 2010, globally, mobile views of websites were about 6% of all views, and now in 2018, that's gone up to over 50%. So our goal is to get the website to be responsive and to look something like this. So if you look and you see on all those devices, you can see it's the same colors, the same picture, and essentially the same navigation. And we want the user experience to be the same on all devices. And so if we look at the evaluation process, it started in 2018, and we looked at 10 websites. And then we had a meeting and we got it narrowed down to 5. And then after we got to 5, we narrowed it down to 2. And the things we looked at was the price, if it was paid or free. We looked at several different solutions that way, and looked at the features too, integration and labor as far as implementation. That was also taken into consideration. So in stage 3, we had 2 websites. One was an in-house demo, and we used South Middle as a demo site, and we had multiple users that tested it out. And then the other one was hosted off-site, and that was what they call a sandbox environment. So it was just basically a test site that we could get into, and we could compare features with our current solution. So our final recommendation based off that is School Messenger. So currently, we have Blackboard products, and so let's look and compare Blackboard and School Messenger. So on the current Blackboard site, It's not responsive. School Messenger sites are responsive.
What does that mean? Excuse me.
So responsive means that whatever device you're looking at, the site's going to shrink or grow depending on, what size your device is. So you don't have to scroll left and right, and, it's easy to navigate. Have you seen those little 3 lines when you look on a mobile device? Okay, so the menu changes on that. And that's about the user experience design. And the current Blackboard site, that design is 10 years old. And the School Messenger sites will have more modern design. One of the main things we looked at was how calendars work. We made changes to our current site to get the calendar to be more user-friendly. So we wanted to make sure we carried that across to whatever solution we were going to use. The current site, we have to use a multi-step import and approval. So we take the information, we could take an athletic calendar, we have to export it to Excel, then we have to take multiple steps to get it right for import into Blackboard. And so there's a lot of handling of the data. With School Messenger, we can just pull a feed from the source. So we don't have to manage that information. It keeps the data safer, so we don't lose anything. So the coach, if he has a calendar on the athletic website or on a league website, whenever they make changes to that calendar, it'll just get updated on our calendar. Right now, we would have to probably go through a 3 or 4 step process to get that done. And then there's notification capability. So if something gets updated on a calendar currently, it's not necessarily, emails aren't necessarily sent out to the right people to let them know that that's been changed. With School Messenger, there's notification capability no matter what the source is or what stage the event is at. One of the things we wanted to look at too was page editing, because we have teachers that go in and they edit those pages, and we wanted to make sure that the process was still easy for them. And so in Blackboard, they have a drag and drop widget page editing, but it's in a separate workspace. So you just drag and drop content blocks onto your page and put your content in there. In School Messenger, it's the same concept, but it stays on the page, and they just have to click a little button on the top of their page, and then they can just go in and edit the content right there. So it saves a step, it saves some navigation for people who are updating the website. They both have multiple widgets, those content blocks. They have all different kinds of types, so you can put all different kinds of content on there. When you sign in, currently you have to sign in with your network login. On School Messenger, teachers would use a Google single sign-on, which is standard for all teachers. As far as training and support goes, Blackboard has limited support. They do have resource materials available. School Messenger, they have the resources to migrate most of our content over. It's part of the package. And then they also have unlimited 24/7 support and webinars that we can use for training to help people. Okay, so if we look at the bundle, Blackboard's website is bundled with 2 other products, which is the mass notification and the mobile app. And back when we switched over to the mobile app for Blackboard, it was ahead of the curve. And School Messenger's caught up with them. And we'd used School Messenger mass notifications before, so the switch over is going to be seamless. So when we looked at it, we wanted to compare apples to apples. So there's 3 products that we're looking at. There's Communicate, which is the mass notifications part. You can broadcast to email, text, and other channels. So that would be district-wide or principals for their schools. And then there's also Skyward Approved integration for parents and guardians, so they can go in and update their contact information. And that helps with the process for updating that because right now it's more of a manual process. There's also a Skyward link to communicate, so building principals can go in and they can send out those mass notifications if they need to. One other feature that I thought was nice was there's a teacher app for two-way classroom communication. So right now, a lot of teachers use something called Remind 101, but they have to manage their own roster and manage all that contact information. With this app, it would just pull the information in. There would be a verification process for the app, and then the teachers would be able to use that to communicate with classrooms and with parents or guardians. There's also the custom mobile app, and that has links to the teacher app in Skyward. One of the things that was a positive is that it's an update from the current app, so if we switch over, we won't have to delete the app and download a new one. You can just get an update, so that makes that process easier. And it integrates the website and social media feeds into it as well, so if there's something we want to promote a story that's on the website, we can push it out to the mobile app. And if they go to that link, then since the site will be responsive, they'll be able to consume that content in a better way than if it's not responsive. And then there's the Presence website, which that integrates with communicating in the custom mobile app. So if there's school closings, we can push that out, have an alert show up on the website. And then also with some of the savings that we have with this bundled pricing, we can reallocate some of it into website content optimization and ADA compliance tools. So looking at the pricing. So School Messenger, they have a per student pricing for all three products. Blackboard, they have a per student pricing only for the notification and mobile app. And then the websites are a flat rate, and then the templates is another cost on top of that. So we're looking at the first year for School Messenger is $32,000, and then that includes an $8,000 custom design of a template, and that's refreshed every 3 years at no cost. For the first year with a new template for Blackboard, we're looking at $53,500, and if we got a custom template, that's an additional $12,000. They have different tiered pricing for their templates. And so right now we have a custom template. Then if we look at renewals, it's $24,000 for School Messenger every year after the first year. For Blackboard, it's $49,000 every year after the first year. So if we take some of those savings, we can reallocate into that tool I was speaking about, which is $7,300 a year. So the total of the first year is $39,000 compared to $53,000. And that's a savings of $14,000. And then the renewal is $31,000 for School Messenger and $49,000 for Blackboard, and that's a renewal of $18,000. So we're looking at the proposed timeline here. School Messenger has a 3-month timeline for getting websites launched. So this month we would make the announcement to buildings and teachers. We would start getting a website site audit with input from principals so we can see what content we want to keep and don't want to keep. And then we would start working on the template with School Messenger. There's also some training and introduction to communicate, which is going to be very familiar to people that were here when we had that product in the past. And then we would use that website optimization and content review tool to start a site crawl and see where we're missing links or images or what's outdated. In May, we would have an optional website training, and then we would complete the site crawling content. June, we would start migrating content and have the template ready to go. In July, we would wrap up with the site migration and be developing support materials and training videos for next school year, and then we would launch August 1st. And that's what I have. Thank you.
Okay.
Anybody have any
Thank you
questions?
very much for that presentation. Are there any questions or comments? Carol?
Most of this was beyond my ken. I'm still using a flip phone, and I'm not on any of the websites. Don't care to be. So you're speaking my language when you're talking saving.
Okay. That's good,
That I can understand.
right?
The other thing that I'd like to ask, though, is who was involved in the selection? Was it just you techies, or were there some people that are going to be the users here that are going to have to deal with it?
Yeah, real
Teachers, administrators, and so on.
So we had a
who were-
couple of users from South Middle that did some of the review of the solutions we had.
But it wasn't a widespread group that made any decisions
No,
here.
I think when we looked at the process on how to edit and update those pages, the process is so similar as far as dragging and dropping, and it's very familiar to what teachers are used to using. So the teacher will create their own website in Wix or Weebly or some of these other third-party solutions where they'll take a content block and drag it over and fill in the information. And they just have a limited space where they can put that content. So it's the same process.
I'd feel more comfortable, quite frankly, if you had involved more people who are going to be users of this in your selection. I think that would have, from my perspective, have been better. I would have liked to have seen more people involved in that. So, yeah, good.
Because we did, Carol and David involved a large number, especially the webmasters within the buildings. They reviewed with them what they wanted, they reviewed with them what expectations they had, and when they decided to get down to the two different websites, when he talked about South Middle, that was a complete conversion of South Middle's website over to the one we were testing. So they could examine all the users. The webmaster was involved in looking at that, checking out how would this be edited and so forth. When they looked at it real close, they came back and we started noticing that the difference in how the user would experience with this change was less than the change of what Blackboard enforced on us just 2 years ago. So, the idea of really involving a lot and say, okay, this is how you're going to change, it didn't make that much sense because it would have involved a lot of time, and we did involve one core group intensely. So
What you have said encourages me, I think, that you may have tested it, but I do want to be sure we're just not dropping this on staff to the point that they're going, oh no, what's going on here now?
I think we run that risk anytime we bring something new in. But that's why when they came back and showed me that the change is really at the same or less than what the teachers will see, the user will see on an annual basis anyway with just updates to Blackboard. So that's where we kind of went, okay, let's do one building intensely to make sure it works. And then we'll go from there.
And you will be evaluating its use throughout this year to see that it's
absolutely.
successful in doing what you want it to do.
Yes, absolutely.
So my understanding is that one, we would save money. Two, it would be more user-friendly. And from the sounds of it, it would clean up all of the websites, including individual teachers, and they would look similar in a way. Is that my understanding? Or, okay. So we don't have rampant running with other logos and a whole bunch of other things going on. We have, okay. Okay, that's, so we would look, so our product that we use to represent our school and inform everyone about our school would have a real clean, stable look about it.
Yes, that's it.
And easy, friendly, user-friendly.
Yes.
Correct?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments, Jim?
I had just a couple questions. There was some conversation about Skyward in there.
Yes.
Skyward, to me, is very difficult to operate as a parent.
Okay.
I guess, could you elaborate on that a little bit, how that might clean that up? Is that something
Well,
that will clean
it's
that
not
up?
necessarily going to clean up the Skyward interface. What it does is it adds a module called Skylert. So you can go in and update your contact information so that you can say, I'd like to get notifications for this. I don't want notifications for this. I have a phone number that's changed to get this information.
Okay,
So that's where that integration comes in.
so that's about the only functionality there,
Yes,
what I understand.
yes.
And then I think the other is a goal here to have teachers more involved in updating those web pages. Is that the goal of the ease? Is that what I understand?
Yes, that's been the goal from the beginning. And so that, I wanted to make sure that if we made the switch, it wasn't going to be harder for the teachers to, to update their pages. And as Dwight said, last year, the year before, there was a major change to the Blackboard as far as how pages were edited, and the processes are very similar.
Okay. And the last question I made as I was going through my notes, August 1 is a very alarming date to me,
Okay?
because how does that affect online enrollment, which is right around there? Does that affect that?
I'm working with software support on that as far as the enrollment goes. We've had some good positive discussions about that. So if we need to make adjustments to that timeline, then we'll have to. Obviously, enrollment's going to be a priority over, launching the site.
Gary?
Along the lines of what Kara was talking about, the dollars, what are we paying for renewals right now with no upgrade of anything? Do you know?
Our last one was 42.
So we're paying 42 with no upgrade of anything.
Right.
Okay. Then secondly, I was wondering about, you talked about dropping in content, that sort of thing. Does what you're proposing, does that allow anybody to do anything that would be broadcast live?
So broadcast live would be something like YouTube or Facebook or something like that, right? So, so we would be able to embed a video that would broadcast live from YouTube, but there's nothing in the system itself where you could make a connection to a video and do some kind of broadcast like that. But there's definitely ways to do it.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other comments or questions? Right now, we do have it as a discussion item.
If the board's willing to move forward with this, I will make a motion in
Okay,
that regard.
let's do that.
I move we adopt the new school messenger platform at a cost of $32,050.
I second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Questions? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. By the way, you're doing a great job and we love it.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, moving on to the next item is proposed textbook adoptions.
We have been working on textbook adoptions since October with our secondary teachers, and so I have their recommendations here for you this evening. We've actually looked at 8 courses. We've looked at Earth, Space Science, Marketing, Financial Math, Medical Investigations 1 and Medical Investigations 2, Financial Literacy, and then Middle School Reading and Middle School English. The ones that are listed together are together because it is a singular adoption. So I want to talk to you just a little bit about the review criteria. We always use the Board of Education policy to weigh our evaluation of textbooks. And we look specifically at that IFR policy that talks about textbooks and instructional materials. That policy speaks to us providing materials that have an effective education for all students. They have aesthetic value. They adhere to ethical standards, those kinds of things. And so that is the very first thing that I have teachers review when they're looking at their textbooks. The next thing that we really do is standards and curriculum. For CTE classes, we're looking at competencies that KSDE puts out. So we really do weigh against what is it that we're supposed to be teaching in our classrooms to find the very best resource to make teachers' jobs easier. And then the teachers actually come up with a list of what is it that they're looking for in terms of instructional strategies and other teacher criteria ease of use kinds of things that are the resources that they need to more effectively teach. So we build our review criteria based upon those 4 things. And at the secondary level, we have, it's kind of a fun process. We always get teachers from both buildings together, and in most cases, every single teacher that is using these materials participates in the review. And so that's the reason that we start in October and we finish at the beginning of April. They begin with curriculum revisions to just make sure that we all have a really clear understanding of what it is that should be taught. And then at that point, they go through and they develop that review criteria, hone anything that needs to be honed on that as far as the teacher standards. Finally, they do that resource review against set criteria. We order in any materials that have a recent copyright date and allow them to look at those materials. We also allow teachers to identify additional resources that maybe aren't from a major publisher that they would like to review, because a lot of times when they're at national conferences or at state conferences, they'll hear about materials that others are using that would be really good in the classroom that maybe aren't from Houghton Mifflin or McGraw-Hill or one of the big text companies. And so we certainly order those in as well. And so the teachers then spend time reviewing the textbooks, and then they write for us a recommendation paragraph. That recommendation paragraph is what you see in your board packet. Those came directly from the teachers who did the reviews. Then I actually asked them, what exactly do you want ordered? What teacher materials do you want? In what format do you want them? Just to make sure that we don't have folks that are disappointed on the back end, that there was something that made them really excited about a particular textbook that then we don't order, and we talk and negotiate a little bit about what that order will entail. At that point, I actually have my assistant get quotes directly from the vendor. So the prices that you see in your board packet are the actual quotes, so that you know right up front what the prices are. I just think that makes things a little bit more transparent for you. So the first text that we are recommending to you is Earth and Space Science by Houghton Mifflin. This is a class that is taught to all 9th grade students. And the text, what the teachers really liked about this text was that it had these strong performance tasks that were actually high interest because they were related to like human and environmental concerns. And so the teachers felt like that was something that was really compelling, a compelling way to make earth science more exciting. Strong career connections, and they also spoke to the fact that this book had connections that were cross-curricular, and that was something that they really do want to promote student thinking about how what they're learning ties together. And it has a strong review component to help kids understand how to better review the content that they've learned. And then the Ngss Standards, those are the national science standards, they have science and engineering practices. And so this particular text was very strong in those science and engineering practices where kids are actually engaging in scientific inquiry. And so the teachers felt really good about that because that's a little bit different modality for students to learn and really does help learning stick. And then finally, some strong professional development videos for the teacher side. What we're recommending is that we would order a digital text per student and that we would get classroom sets of 15 in a class, several extra copies for kiddos that have maybe an individual education plan or a 504, so that if we do have special circumstances where a child needs a hard copy text, that we have that. And then we'll order, of course, teacher resources, and then there is also a webinar for professional development that's built in with this particular source that the teachers wanted us to get for them. On the marketing side, this is one of our CTE classes. This is an elective class. We are recommending a Cengage product called Marketing 4E. This particular text, the teachers really liked the online navigation. That is something that can either make or break a text. When they get on and the ease of navigation, especially from the student viewpoint, one of the things that we do is we log in as a teacher and we log in as a student. And so this one had particularly easy online navigation, and so that was a highlight. The Reteaching and Enrichment, we're always looking for ways to better instruct, hands-on activities, and then there were some strong ideas for tech integration, and so they were excited about that. Again, we're recommending digital texts, teacher resources, and that small sampling of hard copies. On the financial math side, this is actually a course that is offered at the senior level. This is a class that has Algebra 2 as a prerequisite. The Kansas Board of Regents requirements are that students either get a certain ACT score or they have 4 years of mathematics, and that fourth year has to have a prerequisite of Algebra 2. So financial math is that fourth year class, and what we are recommending to you is financial algebra, advanced algebra with financial applications. The teachers really liked this because it promoted critical thinking, and the math standards really helped relate to financial decision-making in personal and business finance. They thought that that was a really strong piece of this particular text. What you really get in the financial math class versus financial literacy, I'm going to talk about in just a minute, is that strong Algebra 2 base, the mathematics behind the way your decisions impact your finances. So that's the financial math class. For Medical Investigations 1 and 2, these are elective classes. They're also CTE classes. And they have a textbook, but they wanted a supplemental book in a novel format that they saw at a CTE conference. And the teachers were really excited about this because there is some content in this particular, in these two classes that is hard for kids, that challenging material, the medical terminology, the ethics, discrimination, diversity, some of those topics that kids would encounter if they were going into the medical field. And so this is a supplemental book that they would like to buy, and they're just buying classroom sets. And it, what's really nice about it is it does have some writing and discussion prompts to bring in that literacy and that upper level thinking. So Code Blue is the title of this book, and they would use it in both Medical Investigations 1 and 2. Financial literacy is a senior level course. We have all seniors take this class. Financial math is not all seniors. Financial literacy is all seniors. And the book that we are recommending for financial literacy is Foundations in Personal Finance. It is a supplemental book. They already do have a textbook, and that textbook that they have is called Take Charge Today. This is actually a compilation of 100 or more high-interest activities that the teacher can do with the students to engage them in simulations, different activities related to what can happen when you're making different financial decisions. So the activities have a strong tie with financial decisions that our seniors are either currently making with credit and debt and, car purchases, cell phone purchases, that kind of thing, or that they'll soon be making. And so very timely. There are online assessments. It has very easy navigation. You may have noticed that it's by Ramsey Press. This is a version for high school. This is a public school version, and it is one that is recommended by the Kansas State Department of Education as a resource for a financial literacy class. And so our teachers are really excited about that. We would actually... we would be getting this, like I said, I think I already said that we would be getting it as a supplemental, that they do have a different text that they use as their regular text. The last text that I want to talk to you about is the middle school reading in English. And we found a text, we had all of the middle school reading and English teachers review this text. And they looked at two options after we had narrowed down, after a smaller group of, not we, I didn't do it, but after a smaller group of English teachers narrowed down to the two best options. All of the English and reading teachers came in and they reviewed the top two. They are recommending a book called My Perspectives. What they're really excited about is it's appropriate for both reading and English, and so they're going to use it in both classes. They want to meet this summer and try to divvy out. These particular pieces of text would be really good for English standards. These particular pieces of text would be really good for reading standards, and so it would be used in both of those courses. It's organized by theme. There are a variety of genres that students would have access to. The diversity of the authors, different viewpoints, they were really excited about this text. It does have explicit writing and grammar instructions, something that our English teachers were really needing a resource and wanting a resource to address, and then a variety of digital resources. And so they were really excited about this particular text. So with that, I do have all of the texts available, of course, in the School Improvement Office for you to come in and review if you want to see them and learn more. And I would be open to any questions that you have. We'll see if I can answer them.
Are there any questions?
I have a comment. I was just hearing from one of the former LIFT recipients and the new grant recipients that she was an 8th grade English teacher, and she was so excited about the reading in English text. She had not been excited about textbooks, and she found that this textbook uploads current events.
Yes.
On a constant basis, so she could do current events right from the digital textbook, and she was so impressed with that.
It's one where the digital and the hard copy come packaged together, and so the teachers would have access to both, so that was one thing they were really excited about. Thank you for pointing that out.
On the medical investigations book, it said it was in novel form. How are they going to split that up to teach it? Teach with it?
You know what, I honestly don't know the answer to that. I could ask the two teachers for an explanation of how they plan to use that. But I did email them and said, this is a novel, or is it really for both courses? And got the response back that yes, it was. So.
I'll come in and take a look at it too. I'm really interested.
Okay. That was one that they had seen at a CTE conference one of the teachers had gone to. And so she came back and said, is there any way we can adopt a supplemental? So we went ahead and pulled that in.
More questions, comments? Thank you, Lynn.
Absolutely.
Well done. Next on our agenda is the 2019-2020 handbooks with Shanna Rector.
Good evening. I'm here on behalf of the principals. I'll talk a little bit about the process that we use to review handbooks. Basically, what happens is that the elementary principals, they look through their handbook and they corresponded with each other and kind of came to a consensus of what items they would want to have updated. And then our middle school principals met and talked about the items that they would like, and also our high school principals. So each group reviewed their handbook and then looked to see what suggestions they would want for the 1920 handbook. So as we look at the elementary handbook, you'll see that there was 3 main sections that they wanted updated. And on your document, you have highlighted in yellow the additions and the deletions that we have there. And so on the kindergarten information, they spend so much time at the beginning of the year, last year, with the ages and stages questionnaire. They really wanted to have it identified by name in the handbook, and so they made the suggestion to have that. And then also recognizing that this is completed during the first 2 days of school, and then that additional assessments will occur throughout the first quarter. On the school lunches, they were looking through that, and yeah, they all agreed about the 20 minutes are allocated for lunch, and then they said, and 10 minutes for a teacher-supervised activity. So that started a conversation back and forth between the buildings of, well, what is that 10-minute student-engaged or teacher-supervised activity? And what they decided is that really felt like maybe that was language that had been in there for a very long time. And so I went back and found that it was actual language. The first identification I had of that language was 2011 and 12, because that's as far as my handbooks go back. And so as they talked about that, they said, with all of the schedule changes, and really our elementary principals are very masterful at being able to identify when to have recess, when to have art, when to have music, and they really felt that there was enough variance in the building that statement attached to lunch really wasn't appropriate any longer. And so there's lots of activities throughout the day that are teacher supervised, but it's not necessarily tied to that 20 minutes at lunch. And so it does vary from building to building. And so they asked if that could be removed. And then on the cell phones, you will see that they wanted a little bit more clarification of smartwatches as technology is introduced. We have many students that use a watch, and it is a smartwatch, and it's very appropriate for them to use that watch each and every day. But sometimes those watches are used for communication, or they're used for gaming devices, and that really is not appropriate in the classroom setting. And so they wanted some clarification about the smartwatch, and so we added that. But we do want to make sure that a student that's wearing it appropriately is going to be able to wear it. The other thing that came to light in that cell phone information is that there was a suggestion after the board packet was was created, for that second sentence, you see that it says, "The cell phone or electronic device will be confiscated if it is seen and taken to the office." And so a request has been made for us to kind of clean up that sentence a little bit, and maybe with the suggestion that the cell phone or electronic device will be confiscated and taken to the office if it is seen. So I was asked to clarify that sentence a little bit, so we will go ahead and do that. Then when you look at, is there any questions about the elementary? Okay. When you look at the middle school handbook, again, we're looking at that ever-changing technology, and the principals felt that our middle school people probably didn't know what an MP3 player was any longer, and that when you talk about radios and pagers really aren't necessarily something that our middle schoolers are bringing to school. And so we just kind of made that more generic to be cell phones and other electronic devices, so we took out the extra definitions there. And then again, we added that smartwatch clause to basically be able to say that if they are using that properly, we want them to have that, but if they are using it for communication or gaming, then it would not be appropriate. You'll see that on Lakewood Middle School, there's some additional wording there, and that was just to basically parallel what was happening at South Middle School, to kind of remind parents that we do have the ability to take messages when they want to get information to students, that the office is available for them to leave those messages, and then they get those to the classrooms, and then also that we do have phones that are available to our students upon asking, either in the classroom or the office, to make those phone calls. Just to kind of help reassure that, yes, we know that most of our students do have cell phones in their backpacks or actually at middle school in their lockers, but there are other ways to communicate with their students during the day. Any questions about middle school? Okay. And then we look at high school. And on the high school one, really we're focusing on the fact that, some of the language that we use in regards to tobacco, that cigarettes is not the only way that we're going to see nicotine being introduced. And so we really wanted to add some clarifying language to that. And so what you see there, it says tobacco and nicotine delivery devices policy. And then we also provided some very specifics, such as vaping and e-cigarette devices. The board policy and terminology, often uses facsimile, and doesn't really give us a lot of specific information. And we really thought here is a case where we did need to provide some specifics, because vaping and e-cigarettes are the terminology that we see that students are using and the terminology that parents would see. And so we wanted to have that specifically in the handbook. And then also, smoking is not necessarily the way that they think about nicotine delivery anymore, so therefore we added tobacco and nicotine cessation information instead of just having it be smoking cessation. Any questions on the high school?
I just, on the smoking with the e-cigarettes and vaping, I also understand that students separate e-cigarettes from Juuls.
Okay. And the language that they have for this, and so is there a suggestion then that you want us to add the terminology Juuls?
Yes, I would.
Okay, let me look into that.
See if that's true, yeah.
I will do that for you.
Thank you.
I have a question too, Shannon.
Yes.
With the tobacco, does that include any kind of chewing tobacco or any kind of skull or any of that? That's not really, it looks like it's mostly smoking here, but is that intended to be included as well?
That would be the tobacco products, yes. And we can look at some clarification on that, but tobacco products usually is going to refer to anything like the skull, the chew, those kinds of things. We added the vaping and the e-cigarettes since that was kind of a new mechanism. And because, when you think of that Juuls, oftentimes, the devices are kind of deceiving to our parents. They look like things like, jump drives and stuff like that. So we really figured that we needed more specifics in there about the words devices.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just a question I have is, are we limiting ourselves there with that for the next thing that comes up? Would it be better just to say a tobacco delivery device? Or nicotine delivery device? Are we backing ourselves into a corner,
And actually, we kind of talked about that a little bit. I talked with the principals because originally that's actually kind of how I brought it forward. But when we started thinking about it and we started talking about the handbook is something that we do get to update each and every year. And also, it really gives us an ability to specifically talk about the vaping and the e-cigarette devices. We can also, we have the term facsimile, and so that really is that broader catchment to be able to identify if something comes around in February of next year that we've never heard of before, we can actually be able to look at that through policy with that term facsimile. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Shanna. We do have part of the discussion agenda with the athletic handbook with Dr. Hardy.
Yes, ma'am. If you'll look to your document, you'll see that there's really one recommended change. One thing we're finding with our high school volleyball programs is that logistically, it's sometimes hard to cover all our teams. So the recommendation is that we add an assistant coach for both the high schools. We did do that this year because we have the ability to do that as we go through the year if we have an increase in student participation. So we did do that for this year, and we're asking that it be made permanent. So each of the teams will have one head coach, 2 assistant coaches, and 1 freshman coach.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions about that? Gary?
Is there a varsity, junior varsity, and freshman volleyball team?
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll move on then to school board reports and upcoming dates of importance. Saturday, April 20th, Chamber Legislative Meeting at the Chamber, 8:30 a.m. Sunday, May 5th, Retirement Reception and Recognition at Lakewood at 3 p.m. And that will start at 3 p.m., is that correct? Okay. Thursday,